years straight, Boosie been wrestling with his demons, but this time it feels like the walls are caving in for real. The feds pulled up heavy, and his latest federal gun case just flipped his whole life upside down. Word hit the streets that he might be staring down a 10-year sentence, and the moment that news dropped, guess who came creeping out the shadows? None other than Charleston White. The internet's loudest, wildest troll didn't waste a second. Soon as Boosie's case hit the blogs, Charleston was online celebrating like it was his birthday. He was dancing, laughing, cracking jokes, and bragging like he had been waiting on this exact moment. Charleston even said straight up that he never cared if Boosie walked back out the system again. Ice cold, but that's Charleston. He feeds off chaos, and this was his Super Bowl. Now here's where it gets real messy. Boosie had already told his fans earlier this year that he was tired of fighting case after case and was ready to take a plea deal. Before the feds doubled back, he told everyone he was putting his trust in God. But you could see it on him, the case was eating him alive. Remember, this same gun charge already got thrown out once in 2023. People thought Boosie finally beat the system, free to focus on his music, his family, and staying low-key. But the feds don't forget. By 2024, they spun the block, brought the same charge back harder, and hit him with another indictment. This time, the pressure crushed him. Boosie admitted he was done burning energy in courtrooms. He even went on X telling the world that God don't make mistakes, and said he was ready to face whatever came next. That wasn't just some random post. You could feel the pain dripping off every word. Fans who've been rocking with Boosie since his Baton Rouge come up know he's always lived on the edge. Court cases, street beefs, even health scares. He's dodged all kinds of smoke, both in the streets and in the system.
A lot of things this case has stopped me from doing, traveling all across the world making. So I just want to get it over with and, accept my guilty plea. I'm ready to get over it.
Anything you want to say to your fans?
Just say a prayer for them. I just need prayer. I don't need nothing else.
Well, Charleston White was celebrating you taking the plea deal. I think he even said he hopes you die in jail and stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard.
The biggest thing right now was that you actually accepted a plea deal for your federal gun case.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been fighting this thing from the very, very beginning?
I've been fighting for probably 3 years now, probably.
3 years.
But this time feels different. 10 years ain't no slap on the wrist. It hit him like a ton of bricks. The Boosie fans saw online wasn't the fiery legend clapping back at trolls. This was a man sounding drained, worn down, almost broken. Like the fight had finally leaked out his soul, even while fans flooded his mentions with love and prayers. Charleston White was online straight popping bottles like he just hit the jackpot. He went live, grinning ear to ear, bragging that he had predicted this years ago and couldn't wait to celebrate Boosie's downfall. Then he pushed it even further, saying out loud that he hoped Boosie would never make it back home. That's a whole new level of cold, even for Charleston. But being outrageous is exactly what keeps his name buzzing all over the internet. What makes this even wilder is the fact that Charleston's beef with Boosie didn't just pop up overnight. It's been brewing for years. Charleston was always lurking in the background, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Their drama actually traces back to late 2022, when Kanye West shook the culture by rocking that infamous White Lives Matter shirt. Boosie was one of the first to speak out, saying it was disrespectful to black folks, and honestly, most of the culture agreed with him. But Charleston, he flipped the script instantly. He jumped online blasting Boosie for even daring to speak on Kanye, and from there it was war. Charleston didn't just stop at calling Boosie out though, he went even lower than anyone expected. He started dragging Boosie's son, Tootie Raw, and even T.I.'s son, King Harris, right into the mess. He called them ugly, claimed they couldn't fight, and even predicted they'd both end up in jail one day. That's when people realized Charleston wasn't just some loudmouth chasing clout. He was the type to go below the belt, aiming straight at family to stir chaos. Just when everyone thought Charleston couldn't cut any deeper, he did. The streets couldn't believe the things coming out his mouth, and everybody was waiting for Boosie to clap back the way he always does. But surprisingly, he didn't bite this time. Instead of snapping online, Boosie played it cool. In an interview with Tony the Closer, he explained that speaking too freely could easily land him back behind bars, especially when somebody drags kids into the mix. He made it clear he wasn't about to let Charleston bait him into saying or doing something reckless that would only give the feds more ammo. That moment showed a whole different side of Boosie. Not scared, but cautious, thinking twice before reacting. He knew Charleston's whole game was to trigger him into exploding, but Boosie refused to give him the satisfaction. Still, the tension was thick, and anyone watching could feel it boiling right under the surface. By early 2023, things really started to heat up. Charleston was already trolling T.I. heavy with that so-called paperwork party, and that's when Boosie's son, Tootie Raw, finally had enough. Tootie clapped back online, calling Charleston old, messy, and even saying, "Go die." That was the first time the younger generation stepped directly into the line of fire. But Charleston being Charleston, he didn't just shrug it off. Nah, he went nuclear. He jumped on live saying, "I hope your daddy died from that diabetes. I hope they forget to send him insulin 1 month." Who even says something that dark?
Going to jail! Oh, God! Oh, God is good. I keep telling y'all, street ain't got no God. God do not look out for street. Boosie really thought he wasn't going to jail for that pistol. I knew he was going. He going to jail. All that newborn baby. Boosie won't get to see that newborn baby till that baby be walking and talking. Boosie going to jail!
That wasn't trolling anymore. That was venom straight from the heart, aimed at Boosie through his own child. And then came the twist that made it all worse. Not long after, Tootie actually ended up getting arrested on a gun charge. The second that news broke, Charleston was online claiming credit. He bragged about calling the police, sending in pictures, and even tipping off the Department of Public Safety like he was part of the investigation himself. Charleston even accused Boosie of being a 6-time killer who used kids to do his dirty work, with no proof at all. But Charleston shouted it loud enough for people to start whispering like it might be true. That's how dangerous his words were. Reckless, but sticky. At that point, their beef wasn't just internet jokes anymore, it crossed into real-life consequences. Charleston wasn't just trolling for views, he was actively trying to wreck Boosie's name, his career, and even his son's reputation. And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, 2023 pulled up swinging harder than ever. Not even 3 months after Charleston dragged Tootie, Boosie himself got picked up in San Diego right after a court hearing. It felt like the system was sitting back waiting for the perfect chance to snatch him up again. And Charleston, he wasted no time turning Boosie's arrest into his own personal comedy show. He hopped on Instagram Live grinning, preaching like a fake pastor, saying it was all God's plan. He even compared Boosie to Daniel in the lion's den, calling prison some kind of divine punishment. The disrespect was through the roof. Some fans thought Charleston was just trolling for clout, while others believed he was dead serious with the sermons. Either way, Charleston twisted Boosie's pain into pure entertainment for his followers. That's his hustle. He flips other people's pain into punchlines, and the views keep coming. By the summer, the trolling had gone so deep that even Boosie couldn't stay quiet forever. He finally broke his silence on Vlad TV. In that interview, you could see the frustration boiling in his face. Boosie straight up admitted he didn't even want Vlad interviewing Charleston at all, especially after the wild things said about Tootie. But still, Boosie made it clear he wasn't scared of Charleston, no matter how far the disrespect went. Boosie's main focus was simple: stay free. He wasn't about to let anybody bait him into saying or doing something that could stack more years onto his sentence. But even while he played it cool, you could tell Charleston was living rent-free in his head. Every time Boosie's name hit the headlines, Charleston was right there too, running his mouth and flipping the story his way. Then, in early 2024, their beef spilled deep into internet culture in the wildest way. Aiden Ross, one of the biggest streamers out right now, planned to bring Boosie onto his stream. That should have been massive. Boosie on Twitch, all those millions of eyeballs locked in. But here's where Charleston's shadow crept back in.
Where the feds picked it up.
Now, it was a state case. The feds came, picked it up. They had a ruling in the Supreme Court that went in my favor, and the case got dropped by the judge.
Boosie decided not to do it because he didn't want his name tangled up in Charleston's mess. Next thing you know, Aiden flipped the script and went online, claiming he actually turned Boosie down out of loyalty to Charleston White. That lie spread across social media like wildfire. Suddenly, people were clowning Boosie, making it look like he got curved by a streamer, when really, he was just trying to avoid Charleston's drama. The whole thing blew up so bad that DJ Vlad had to step in. Vlad went off on Aiden, calling him out for siding with Charleston, a man Vlad claimed had praised Hitler and denied the Holocaust. Vlad putting that out there showed just how dangerous Charleston's influence had gotten. He wasn't just an internet troll anymore. His name carried so much weight that streamers, rappers, and clout chasers were all using him like a golden ticket to attention. It didn't even matter if people had beef with Boosie or not. Everybody was finding a way to insert themselves into the conversation just to score clicks off Charleston's name. That's how far his reach stretched. But Charleston wasn't done stirring the pot. In March, he jumped back online, claiming Boosie was warning promoters not to book him. Of course, Charleston spun that into another rant, saying Boosie was making threats and that he'd already reached out to the feds for backup. Charleston was bragging like crazy, talking about how he was ready to get Boosie locked up again, like he had the FBI on speed dial working as his personal bodyguards. And just to twist the knife deeper, he even dragged Boosie's health into it, cracking disrespectful jokes about his diabetes like it was some kind of comedy skit. That's Charleston's playbook: hit below the belt, make it personal, and keep the spotlight burning on him. And this wasn't just harmless noise either. Boosie himself admitted he was getting calls from people already sitting behind bars, asking him straight up, "When you coming to join us?" Imagine that. You're at home, already facing the weight of a looming federal sentence, and guys in prison are hitting your line like they're saving you a bunk. That's pure psychological warfare. Charleston knew exactly what he was doing. It wasn't trolling anymore. It was pressure. He wanted Boosie to feel like the walls were closing in before he even touched a jail cell.
He brought you up because you were attacking Kanye because of the...
Nah, it's Kanye West. It just happened. Nigga been coming at me. He been coming at me. It's just, you know, I can't respond to those people, bro. Like, that's a danger to what I got going on.
And here's where it turned even darker. Whispers started spreading that maybe Boosie didn't even want to drag this thing out with a full trial. Some folks believed he just wanted it over with. And honestly, can you even blame him? Just picture the possibility of Charleston showing up in court. If Charleston had even a shot at being in that courtroom, you already know he would have turned the whole thing into a spectacle. He's the type to point fingers, crack jokes in front of the jury, then walk outside and run straight to the blogs, bragging like, "I helped put Boosie away." And that's not a stretch. That's literally Charleston's whole formula. He openly brags about calling cops, setting people up, and even admits to testifying back in the day. That part of his story always comes back up when he was just 14, caught up in a robbery where another teen pulled the trigger on a man named Michael Levy. Charleston turned that dark history into the same fuel he uses today, mixing real-life crimes with his never-ending thirst for attention. Instead of keeping his mouth shut back then, Charleston took the stand and testified in court against his co-defendant, Antoine Doolittle. In street culture, that's the ultimate betrayal, being labeled a snitch. And even though he was just a kid at the time, people never let him live that down. But Charleston, he don't run from it. He embraces it. He defends it proudly, saying, "I was young. I was in court. I told the truth." That's not snitching, that's survival. Recently, footage from that old juvenile case resurfaced, and the internet lit up instantly. People flooded the comments, calling Charleston a hypocrite.
My opinion can send me to prison. So I ain't really, you know, I ain't really got no opinion on them, you know, once you go to threaten people's kids, talking about you gotta lie. So, you know, I ain't gonna do all that. I ain't gonna do all that, you know what I'm saying? It's just, hey, you know, certain people you can't really express opinions on, and he one of those. You can't express how you feel because you might end up in prison. And I ain't getting tricked off the street.
They asked, how can you clown rappers for being rats when you testified yourself? But Charleston doubled down again, saying he never lived by no street code in the first place and he don't care who's mad about it. That's the thing about Charleston. He's untouchable in his own twisted way because he's not playing by the same rules as everybody else. He'll clown you for being a rat while proudly waving his own paperwork in the air. That contradiction is exactly what keeps eyes locked on him, even if most folks hate his guts for it. So when you put all the pieces together, Boosie's plea deal, his worn-out demeanor, the non-stop internet rumors, and Charleston's never-ending circus, it's no surprise why Boosie just wanted to skip the trial and take the plea. The last thing he needed was to sit in a courtroom while Charleston turned the whole thing into a live performance for the blogs. Boosie wasn't running from the law. He was running from the chaos Charleston was ready to unleash in that courtroom. And that's why this beef cuts deeper than trolling. It's personal, it's messy, and it's costing Boosie his peace of mind. Right now, his whole world feels like it's hanging by a thread, while Charleston White is treating it all like front row entertainment. The second word broke that Boosie was leaning toward that plea deal, Charleston popped back online louder than ever. To him, this wasn't just another rapper caught slipping. This was karma, plain and simple. He went live, bragging that everything he'd been saying for years was finally coming true. All the trolling, all the insults, all the times he claimed Boosie would crash out. In Charleston's eyes, this was the final stamp of validation. That right there proves this beef ain't about clout anymore. It's personal. Charleston's been locked in on Boosie since 2022, and every time something bad happened, he was right there to throw salt in the wound. From clowning Tootie's arrest, to mocking Boosie's health, to bragging about contacting law enforcement, it's like Charleston won't be satisfied until Boosie is completely out the picture.
I'm gonna put your in jail, waiting for the FBI to send me the right kind of number, cause I'm finna make a report on your mother and people. And you make the man call your name specifically. The promoter specifically said your mother name, Lil Boosie. He implemented you and implicated you. To go to jail, back to jail. You gonna be on your knees,
But here's where it gets split. The streets ain't all laughing with Charleston. Some people say Boosie brought this on himself. They argue that after years of dodging charges, disrespecting people online, and living reckless, the feds were bound to box him in eventually. To those folks, Charleston isn't the villain. He's just saying out loud what others were already whispering. On the other side, you got the ones who ride for Boosie heavy, fans who see him as a survivor, a man who's been through fire and still kept pushing. To them, Charleston don't look like no truth teller. He looks like a straight hater, obsessed with tearing down another black man who's been holding on against the odds. That's the debate lighting up barbershops, podcasts, and comment sections right now, and it's louder than ever. One thing's for sure, if Charleston is this loud while Boosie's still technically free, just imagine the circus if the judge really slaps him with that 10-year sentence. Charleston will treat it like his own victory parade on every platform possible, live streaming, shouting, maybe even popping bottles. And don't think for a second he'll stop there. Charleston thrives off other people's pain. The more people react, the more energy he gets, and the cycle just feeds itself. Meanwhile, Boosie's leaning on faith, but even his words sound different these days. His posts about trusting God don't sound like the cocky Boosie fans grew up with. They sound like a man bracing for the worst. And when you got Charleston in your ear, the feds breathing down your neck, and the internet split between mocking you and praying for you, it's almost impossible to find peace. This ain't just about prison time, it's about legacy, about whether Boosie can bounce back stronger or if Charleston's voice will echo over his career forever. To put it plain, this is one of the wildest beefs in hip-hop right now. It ain't about records, it ain't about corners, it ain't about money, it's about humiliation. Charleston White made it his mission to publicly embarrass Boosie at every step. And now with a possible decade behind bars hanging over him, Charleston is acting like the crowned king of the internet. But here's the twist. If Boosie really does get locked up, it might backfire. Why? Because prison has been a strange reset button for plenty of rappers. And if Boosie comes home sharper, hungrier, and more focused, Charleston's little celebration might not age too well. For now, though, it's a waiting game. Boosie's plea deal is sitting on the table, the streets are buzzing, and Charleston is circling like a vulture, waiting to pick at what's left of Boosie's name. This ain't just another headline, it's a culture-shaking story, the type that tests loyalty, exposes fake friends, and shows who's really rooting for your downfall. And no matter which side you stand on, one thing's clear, the spotlight is hotter than ever, and the outcome is about to shake hip-hop for years to come. So the only question left, will Boosie rise again, or will Charleston White get the last laugh? The answer's coming soon, and the whole world's watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, drop a comment, and turn on notifications to keep up with more wild stories just like this one right here on Starbuzz Daily.